Hello, everyone. Happy Fabulous Friday. I am Hayley Hoffman, the founder and CEO of Dandy Day, and we are a conscious beauty firm working in the beauty industry, connecting ingredient suppliers and manufacturers doing good for people and planet with the brands that have the reach to create that change one person at a time. And so through that conscious living, we've created Fab Fridays, and Fab Fridays are really created specifically for the beauty community together for personal and professional development at the individual level, because it just starts with each one of us, that change. And so we bring in special guests that can help us achieve a higher level of consciousness in our everyday lives. And so that is why AJ Bishop is here. Hi, AJ.
Hi, Haley. Hello, everyone. So happy Friday. Can't believe
Happy
it's already
Friday.
Friday. Wow.
I
What a
know, and
week.
yes, the first Friday of November, right? It is the first Friday of November, yes. And
Yes.
a lot going on in the world. So it's really nice to be together and to talk about consciousness in terms of wealth. And as we were talking before the session started, you brought up a really good point that wealth isn't always money. It could be something else. And so I wanted to just give a quick introduction to the community of who you are. And I read that you have been described as the modern day Susie Orman meets Oprah.
Yeah, it's a beloved term. I think I was given maybe 10 years ago because I've been in the financial services and wealth management industry for almost 16 years. Yes, I started as a baby, but I've just always had a presence of directness, but also in a mindful and conscientious way.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, and I could tell that instantly when we started talking, and you have just this nice calmness about you, and you have that direction, you have that vision. And so beyond being a wealth and management coach, you're also a mindfulness and meditation teacher and yoga instructor.
Yes. Yeah. So for as long as I've been in the wealth management industry, I've been practicing yoga and meditation. And I always found it as a way to rebalance, right? So I work in a very male dominated industry, and that energy was just, at times it was more than I could handle, but I knew that I had to stay in it. I didn't quite know the purpose back then, but practicing yoga, being inside of my body, dancing,
Mm.
that really helped me be grounded so that I could continue not only in the work, but my own personal journey around defining my own definition of wealth.
Yeah, and we we're also just talking about, as women, creating that space for us, for ourselves. And I think for many of us, we do work in male dominated workplaces, which there's nothing wrong with working with men and having that energy around you. But I know even for myself, because I've worked mostly on the scientific side of the beauty industry, there would be many times I would be the only woman in the room. And to be definitely a younger looking female, I'm almost 38, so I'm not as like young as I look, right? It's like the Asian Latina curse, right? The gift and the curse. Um, but it was always interesting. I found myself at times that struggle between, I want to be myself and feminine and gentle and kind, but I also want to be taken seriously and to be valued and for what I was bringing to the table. And so it can be easy to get lost, I think, in that as women in the workforce.
Absolutely. I was, I'd say early on in my career, because I, I was very successful as a financial advisor, and I got promoted relatively quickly to leadership. And, I was probably 27, 28 years old, and I was managing a bunch of men that were in their 40s and 50s at the time. And I remember like feeling like I needed to act like a man to be successful. and it didn't work, right? It just didn't,
Yeah.
it didn't suit me. It didn't, like, I even found myself like trying to dress like the men and hanging out with the men all the time. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with that, but I was missing my own voice in
Mhm.
every, right? And we do so much work, right? Like we work a lot, and even more now more than ever, since we're not physically going to an office.
Yeah.
I didn't have the, I was finding that I was actually kind of just pretending a lot of the time, whether I was at work,
Mm.
whether I was at home. And so yoga and consciousness and meditation really is what opened my eyes to there being a different way, right? Like there really is a different way to live your life, a conscious life. And that's ultimately, I think, where the dream of my wealth conscious coach was created.
Mhm. Yeah, and so can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by consciousness when applied to, or from your perspective of what consciousness is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because oftentimes people are like, well, what is it that you do, right? Like my wealth conscious coach, I get it. You're a money coach. And I say, no, I'm more than a money coach. Wealth
Mhm.
consciousness is the idea that all of the elements that you need to prosper are in alignment, right? So
Mm.
that's
Love that.
partially your vocation, it's your vision, it's the family in your lives, it's the way you're giving back to your community, it's the way you're connecting to spirit, the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in. That's truly where wealth lives. And
Mm.
by only talking about money when it comes to wealth, we're really setting ourselves up for what I call a divided world, which, no pun intended, we're actually right in the middle of that right now with the
Mm.
election. And when I say divided, I mean in the haves and have-nots,
Mhm.
right? So when we are so focused on money only as being wealth, then we either have it or we don't have it. And the reality is that we actually all have our own definition of wealth. We just need to discover it. We need to discover it for ourselves. And not a lot of people are talking about that, because it's,
Mhm.
it's more about, okay, what mutual fund do I need to invest in? How much money do I need to
Mhm.
save? What's the salary I need to get? And all of those things are important. And you need to understand the why, right? So one of the steps in the ways that I talk about improving money mindset is around determining your why. Like, why
Mm.
do you get up every day to go to work? Like, who's it for? What's your vision? What's your values around that? Because when you become disconnected from that, that's where we see burnout. That's where we see discontentment. That's where we see, right, people living in the status quo. And
Mhm.
I believe COVID, in a way, was a blessing. It gave some of us a taste of what it's like to slow down and become more conscious. But
Yeah.
there's still quite a few people out there who are, still just acting as though nothing shifted.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's hard at times if you haven't been, don't have the support, in terms of maybe you were never taught or exposed to a different way of thinking, of slowing down. And I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more, during the talk, but yeah, that alignment is so important, and being conscious, being mindful that you can align these different aspects and areas of your life to live your best life. And I guess until you just said that, like all those things is where wealth lives. That convergence of everything is where wealth lives. It is that satisfaction of, and contentment. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's a beautiful place to be. Um, and when I think about Dandi Day and what we stand for, it's really that alignment of, you said the haves and have-nots. When we're working in supply chain and thinking about natural resources, it really becomes about the haves and the have-not of the resources. Maybe there's greater power, so we are able to take more resources, but then that leaves somebody else maybe around the world with less resources to live and survive. And um, so, yeah, through conscious beauty, we really are wanting to bring those issues up, talk about those issues, and work in the design process of the formulations, how we select ingredients, how do we review them in order to really create a final product. Um, so I was wondering before we start, I'd love to just kind of dive right into the things you have to share about wealth management and your perspective on that, and go in a little bit deeper. But before that, would you mind leading us in like a grounding session, a quick grounding or meditation session?
Of course, would love to. I think all that's going on, it's so important to get connected back to source, right? And source is that place where, right, your divine soul meets the universe, abundance, God, whatever it is. And it's the quiet moments, right? It's these quiet moments that we have that really get us connected there and allow us to restore so that we can move forward. And so, right, like I was talking to someone this morning around collective consciousness, and there's just a lot of disturbance in that right now with the election. So yeah, let's just jump right into getting grounded. And so wherever you are in the world, the best way to start out a grounding practice is to just get really present and quiet and listen and hear what you hear, right? Like with your eyes open to begin. Like just take notice whether you're, right, your eyes are directly on the camera or the screen, or, you know, if there's a text message that's coming in or an email popping up, just be present to what is here now. And then slowly close your eyes. And if closing your eyes is not something you're comfortable with or just not up for it today, like just lower your gaze, like soften it. And take a couple deep belly breaths, like so deep that your belly expands out. And notice any places you may or may not be holding your breath. Perhaps it's caught in your chest, or it's getting constricted through your throat, but allow the breath to go all the way down to whatever surface is touching a chair, or if you're sitting on the floor. And then get present to your feet or whatever is touching the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, I know sometimes I love to work from the floor, but get present to the ground, right? Like this rich place that provides us a foundation. Right? The one thing we always can count on is the ground, right? Like being grounded, having access to this connection with what's really holding us to the earth. And then as you start to bring your awareness up your legs and into your thighs, just take notice of any body sensations, any warmth, coolness. Maybe you can feel the texture of your clothes on your body. And just know that if, you know, thoughts and sounds arise, that's completely normal. Like that's the experience of getting present and mindful, is actually hearing the sounds and just allowing them to pass by like clouds in the sky. Now bring into your awareness, yeah, what the intention you'd like to have for the next 20, 30 minutes of this conversation, right? A word that you believe is the source of your wealth, and bring it to your third eye center, that space in between your eyebrows. And then just allow that sensation of that word to surround you. Like really take it in your breath, let it permeate into your skin. And then slowly open your eyes.
Thank you, AJ.
You're so welcome.
That's really great. So the my intention for today is connection. So I'm bringing that intention, and so happy that we connected. And so now if you'd like to go in and share more about the money mindset, wealth conscious money mindset. I'd love to give the floor to you, and I'll stop sharing my webcam while you share your insights.
Fantastic. So I would just love to start off with the joy. My intention was around connection as well, Hayley, but I really want to just first off start out by saying, like, I'm absolutely appreciative and in so much gratitude around this conversation, because it really couldn't have come any more perfectly, right? I think 2020 was grounded in so much uncertainty around, right, jobs, around, right, whether or not you could get toilet paper. There was so much going on. And I think that although we've been stuck at home, working from home, like the days have felt so long, yet the year has gone by so fast. And so this idea of wealth consciousness is really getting constantly aware of the habits, the patterns, the beliefs that you've created around money, around your attachment to it or non-attachment to it, and getting really flat. And your money mindset is a really big piece of that, right? So the 5 ways to improve your money mindset are actually quite simple in terms of theory, but it's putting them into action that truly makes it what I like to call a game in a way, right? Like, so at My Wealth Conscious Coach, we're all about having fun. We're all about being creative, because wealth management wasn't created that way, right? It's pretty boring. It's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of complexities, and we don't believe at My Wealth Conscious Coach that it has to be that way. And so we try to take really complex ideas and all complex strategies around wealth management, coupled with this consciousness, right? Coupled with the way of creating awareness, and I've blended them together. And what that creates is real change in money transformation. And so the 5 quick steps that I'll share with you today are really grounded in the work that we do at My Wealth Conscious Coach around money transformation. Our mission is to ignite financial transformation so that we can up-level the world, right? We have really big goals, and we're excited to be on this mission to empower specifically women, and of course we get men as well too, but we really are focused on women, and specifically women business owners. And so you may or may not know the statistics, but the latest I read, roughly 10 million women are business owners in the United States, and we're actually becoming the most wealthy generation, us millennials, and we're going to get to the heights of wealth and money that people before us hadn't. So it's a really exciting time, and that's why I think the time is now, and the call to action is very urgent. So number 1 is this whole idea around getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I'll just share personally. Last month, I was given the opportunity, or at least I look at it as an opportunity, to step away from my corporate role. And I would tell you, prior to COVID, that would have been a complete disaster for me. And what I mean by that is I wasn't prepared, right? COVID gave me the time to actually stop and get realistic and get really grounded in what is it that I want to do and create with my life. And so when my company said, we're restructuring, COVID took us by surprise, are you willing to leave? Basically, I was actually thrilled. I was thrilled. And I don't think I would have been comfortable in that decision had I not created a plan. And so a big part of money mindset is ensuring that you have a plan. And the plan may be a plan for savings. A plan may be a plan for your plan B, or for your passion project, but ensuring that you have multiple places that you're generating and sourcing your contentment, your fulfillment, your pocket, your money, like ensuring that you have multiple ways to generate money and generate wealth into your life is so important, and now more than ever. So getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is number 1. Number 2 is all around determining your why. I gave you a sneak peek of that at the beginning, but it really does matter why you're doing what you do, because if you do not take the time to discover this, burnout, resignation, cynicism, all of those things come up. And then all of a sudden you start feeling like, in the true sense, a slave to your work. And if those of you who may or may not be familiar, there's a term called ikigai, where it's this idea that you've found something in the world that you have the greatest passion around that you actually get paid for. And so starting to think about, right, what if I could do anything in the world, right, anything, if I took my imagination off, if I was that 3-year-old child, that 5-year-old kid who had the big dreams, right, what would I be doing and why? And I think right now is the most perfect time to be having that conversation and that internal inquiry with yourself, because the working world is forever changed. It's not going to look the same in 5 months. It's not going to look the same in a year. There's just so many new opportunities and possibilities out there for people to discover. And so, yeah, get busy determining your why. Number 3 is really all about the idea of letting go of what you feel is normal and letting go of standards that have been created for you, right? We talked a lot, Hayley and I talked prior to this about this idea of the haves and have-nots, or keeping up with the Jones, or, you know, keeping up with the Kardashians now. And we've been conditioned in a way to think that achieving money through certain ways is actually what creates status. It's what creates power. And don't get me wrong, like, money does talk in some ways, but the reality is as human beings, we need to define what our own standards are around wealth, what our own standards are around money. I'll share with you, I'm half Brazilian. My mother is, bless her, she lives in Utah, but my entire family on my Brazilian side lives in Cuiabá. And they actually live in favelas, right? Which is, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's some of the most desolate living, right? Like we would in the United States consider it shanties. And I remember the first time I went to visit, I was scared, and I was actually just almost terrified, in the sense of like, oh my Lord, how do these people live like this? And I would say, like, after 20 minutes, all of that dissipated when I saw how much joy and contentment and love they had in their communities. It just felt like a normal, like, giving and thriving neighborhood. And so it made me realize that happiness isn't about money, right? Yeah, you sure have to have money to obtain things, to get the essentials, but how much money does it take for you to be wealthy? And that's the question you should be focused on, not how much does, CNN or CNBC, or who, the neighbor down the street, like what they say that you should be earning. So now's the time to create your own standards, right? And redefine the normal. The most important piece, number 4, is around creating a circle of supporters. And I call that creating your tribe, right? People don't love to talk about money unless they want to brag about it sometimes, or they want to, kind of what I call commingle in the drama around it. But you have to find people who are on the same path of consciousness and of mindfulness around their wealth, because it's really easy to get sucked into, right, the scarcity mentality of there's not enough to go around, there's not enough for me, there's not enough for you. And what that does, that energy, right, like that whole idea and that whole energy just creates more. So I'm sure many of you have heard the term, our words create our worlds, right? Basically our reality, what we speak and who we're around, creates the type of life that we're living. So it's so important to ensure that you have, right, your tribe, your people who understand what you're up to, right, that you're up to something bigger than just money in this wealth consciousness journey. Last but not least is all around putting your goals front and center, right? Like I can't tell you, my favorite part of doing my programs with women is all about getting really clear about their vision, values, and their goals, and dreaming from a place of like, there's no limit, right? From the place of abundance versus a place of scarcity, what is possible, right? Like one of the questions that I hold, and it's grounded in the mission of my Wealth Conscious Coach, is all around what is possible when we unbind money from our potential, right? Not to or and, like money is important. Like, let me be clear here. It's important, but it's not what needs to be bound to your potential. And so by putting your goals, like your big goals, and when I say wealth, right, and around your wealth goals, it's, yeah, what do you want to be doing in the world? What's your vocation? What are your vision and values? Who are the people that matter to you that you want to leave a legacy for? What are the charities? What are the causes that you feel passionate about? Right? Like putting those things at your center, right? Like we did this meditation about getting grounded, like this, having it at your core, putting that right in your center is actually what enables you to move forward into the world, which perhaps has different ways of being. And what I mean when I say different ways of being, there's a lot of people in the world right now who are living from the periphery, right? The external. They're allowing things on the external to inform who they are and their identity. And what we're all about and what I'm up to in the world is creating people who create leadership from the inside out versus the outside in. And so those are the 5 steps, right? Like they sound so simple and so easy. I know that. And the reality is it's work, right? I've been on this wealth consciousness journey for over 10 years. And every day I say I learned something new, right? Like the recent shift in my corporate job, right? Like really changed things. And so I'm just in such a creative mode right now. So it's been an inspiration, and that's because I was prepared and I had a plan. So if you take anything away from this entire conversation, like just like begin the conversation ASAP around, like don't allow yourself to get stuck around your finances and your money.
Oh my gosh, that was really awesome, AJ. Thank you.
Oh, thanks,
I was like
Hayley.
taking notes and just thinking through like my life and my experiences. And you talked about identity. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a Korean adoptee, and so this idea of identity is very special. I have a unique relationship, I think, with identity, because definitely my periphery did not inform me very well of who I am or who I was supposed to be. It's very confusing. But yeah, I really feel that being centered and growing from that centered place, and discovering who you are for that. So that was so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of
And
course.
I wish that we could talk through every single one of these points again, because it was every number had, I think, a trigger for me of like, yes, I can identify with that, getting comfortable with uncomfortable. Um, so many examples.
I hear you. I totally hear you. Yeah, and so, just if you're curious about the work we do at my Wealth Conscious Coach, right, you can find me at ajbishop.co, where we're in creation, as I was saying, of a lot of really neat programs and offerings because, again, it's just the time's now. The time is now for us to have a collective awakening around our wealth.
Yes, well, I'm so excited. And you have a workshop coming up in a couple of weeks, right?
I do. So on Monday, November 16th, I'm starting a 5-day challenge where we're actually going really deep into these 5 steps.
Okay.
One thing that people do and don't know about me is I love to go big. One of my core values is generosity. So I've brought in some amazing, right? Speaking to circle, like creating your tribe, I brought in some of
Mhm.
my really, really like dear to my heart friends and mentors who will be sharing some of their secrets around these as well too. So we're going to launch the registration page on Monday, but yeah, definitely check it out at ajbishop.co.
I am excited. I will be there. So,
Yay! I can't wait.
yeah, well, thank you so much. We are coming up to 2 o'clock, so I'm going to sign off. But thank you so much for your generous
Thank you,
time
Hayley.
and
Thanks so
knowledge.
much for having me. And I acknowledge your work in the beauty world. It's so needed.
Thank you, and you as well. We're doing it all together.
Yes, we are.
Okay, we'll make it a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.